Alright, we are continuing to do the process. And we got the paperwork from LOJ here. See if I can focus. But what we have to do is grind. If you have a twin turbo, yeah, if you have, do it again.
No.
Do it again.
No.
Do it.
Nope.
Do it. That's not what you were doing. Anyways, if you have a NA transmission, then you have to grind this section and this section flush with here, and you also have to grind this down just a wee little bit to make clearance. So we're going to do that now. But if you have a twin turbo, this has already been ground down. Alright, babe, what do we do?
Well, we, I don't know what you call it, just made this, got rid of all the bumps. What's the word? Shaved it.
Remove material.
Shaved it down.
So the LOJ says to remove the material. There's a bump here. So we took about maybe 1/4 inch off. This is already real thin, but that's how you're supposed to do it, and it makes room for the flywheel. So you're just making this unison. Even colder proof. Next thing we have to do is make room for it to go in the car. So now we have to, which just got done cleaning all that up and respraying it. And now we have to hammer that corner and also somewhere down there for the starter. So that's what we'll do next. Alright, what we just did was upgraded to the, they call it a Nismo, but the Nismo pivot ball, which is chromomoly, versus this one. The only difference is this one is about half the length of this one. So imagine about 1/2 inch cut off here. And we torqued it to, I think 29 foot-pounds or 30 foot-pounds is what it came out to. Put some blue Loctite on it. And then we got new springs. So this is a 350Z cast iron clutch fork. And then this is also a 350Z pilot bushing, or throwout bearing. It's a throwout bearing. And we bought, if I can find it, give me 1 second. We went to O'Reilly's and bought a 1 3/4 inner and outer diameter piece of exhaust pipe, and it goes down, it sits over that, so that way you're pressing on this lip right here and not the bearing itself. Doing some upgrades, slowly but surely. And also, there is a spring that goes in there that you just get some needle nose pliers, and you set this down underneath that lip, you squeeze these in and push down, and it'll pop in there, and that's going to hold that pivot ball. But you also want to put some grease in there. We haven't yet. And you're going to want to put some grease on the ball, which will end up being in here, and you'll also want some here. There's also a spring that slides on there, and you'll want to put some grease on the wear points of that, obviously. Moly fortified grade grease, and its dropping point is 500 degrees, which will be more than enough for what its purpose is. But it's Valvoline, support those who you want to support you. So we use Valvoline everything. And you can see that I put some grease in there on all the wear points on there, and then the pivot ball, and also on the pivot ball. I also greased where the bearing is going to ride, and inside of the bearing where there's a little indent in it, and it's meant to be packed full of grease. So we did that. Gonna wipe off some of the excess here. Resuming where we left off, we have the spring facing outwards this way, and then down here, you can see that. Can you see that? Yeah. We have to push this in, and then this needs to click on to the pivot ball. So we're going to do that now. It's going to be kind of difficult because it's a weird angle, but and there it's clicked in, and now we have a new throwout bearing assembly installed. Take some of this grease and put it here, but you really don't want excessive grease on these splines because you don't want grease getting on your clutch. You also don't want it on the throwout bearing, so we need to clean that up. Get nice thin film on that. And we just gotta wipe all that off now. Also, to compare the difference, that is solid cast. I'm guessing it's iron. I don't think it's aluminum. It might be solid cast aluminum. It's pretty heavy, so I think it's iron. Anyways, we went from this to this, or from this to that. On the back side of this is completely hollow except for where the pivot ball goes. So this is much stronger. You're not going to bend this. This is also used for a 350Z. Alright, continuing the process of the build. Now we are installing the LOJ conversion adapter kit, if you will. It's a little nice billet piece of aluminum. And also, per the directions, I think we wait, but we'll get to it. There's also the shifter bracket. And it comes with hardware and everything included in the bag. Don't throw your hardware. You might need it. But first thing you're going to do is remove the stock shifter linkage from the transmission. This would naturally sit like this. This would naturally sit like this, and all you have to do is take a, you can see in the directions too, he'll explain it, but in case you're buying a second hand, it's also available on his website. You take a crescent wrench or adjustable and you pry it out, but if you don't have a crescent wrench that won't reach in there, you can take a pair of pliers, and it's only 1/8 inch aluminum. I think it's it's brass, 1/8 inch brass, and then you just weld it. Not weld it. Bend it out of the way. But be careful when you bend it out of the way because these are thrust bearings. So if you gently remove these, there's needle bearings in there. And you don't want to lose any of those because you can't get them from Nissan anymore. I am going to put some grease in there now, or on this, and then slap it back on. And then you're going to want to put grease here and here. And then you're going to take the adapter bracket, don't lose the nut, and you're going to separate it, and the part with the recess to billet is going to go over those, and then you'll tighten this down. Alright, now it's time to put on the shifter bracket. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Just gonna put it on top like this, run the bolts down, tighten them diagonally. So when you get this one, when you get all 4 in, snug this one down, snug this one, snug this one, and snug this one. Just snug is gonna be fine. All right, now we are under the car, looking at the steering rack, and we gotta take out that bolt and that bolt. And that'll allow us to separate it off the U-joint and push it up. And then once we do that, we gotta take this subframe bolt off, and that subframe nut off. Do the same thing on the other side. Put a pry bar here, pop this down, and the shocks will absorb it, but it'll put us 2 inches here, and that'll allow us to drop the motor in. After we get the engine onto the transmission. But we are super, super close. Alright, we just redid the rear main seal. And how you do that is you have these 3 little tabs. You gotta get a screwdriver behind. You need a tiny screwdriver. You put them in here and you gotta work them in, each one a little bit, and it'll eventually pop out. And once it pops out, you have this little alignment tool. It goes inside of the gear. You align it on the shaft, and then you push it over once it's on there. What I did is I did that, pushed it in by hand, and then you put your old seal on there, and then you take a piece of wood and a hammer to set it in evenly, and then you just walk it around, or if you have a special tool, a 3D printed tool for that, you can use it. I just used the extension, and it was gentle, and now it is flush all the way around. The pilot bushing out, the step that you can see is going to face outwards towards the transmission, and then I have a 1/16 socket, and I'm going to use that to drive it in. You want this face here to be flush with this surface, but flush or slightly sticking out this way, but not in that way. This guy goes on over the flywheel. You actually, it doesn't say anything in the directions on how to do that, but if you look, this is still only inside on the spline, and I would feel better of this being on the outside and this resting on that face more. And also the ARP bolts that we have are just long enough that if you don't put in that spacer, you'll have like that much sticking out. Now these are torqued to 85 foot-pounds. If you come over here on ARP's thing, we are going to be using 242 blue Loctite. Any blue Loctite's the same. And then 85 foot-pounds and a star pattern. And you also have to put this on the back face of the bolt. So on the face, and that'll actually seal it to the flex plate. And then you go in a star pattern, so you snug it all down and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get the point. To 85 foot-pounds. So we're going to do that now, and then we can put the clutch on. Flywheel. Another thing that's really, it's going to go into the 240 again. I've got the ball out like 3 or 4 times now. Another important fun fact, the 350Z is the same bolt configuration on the clutch as the Z32NA. The Z32 twin turbo is different. So if you get a new flywheel, also order a 350Z clutch, and it's also the same width as the twin turbo, but the bolt pattern is the same as the Z32NA or 350Z. On, you'll get these little dowel pins, and they all go in the B, which is a really nice detail. I didn't realize it until I actually lined it up. But if you put B, baby, and then it'll line up on the clutch perfectly fine. That's for NA. Twin turbo is going to be A. Chronicles of Cold. No, get out of here. So let's get this on, torque it down, put that clutch on with my clutch alignment tool that I just lost, and then we can mate it to the trans. We're making progress. I'm so ready for this to be done, so we can enjoy it. Okay, little PSA. Buy yourself a flywheel lock kit. I never want to do that again. I had to put a sock. Oh, you can see my contraption. I had to put the engine hoist lifter jack handle into a 6" 3/8 ratchet with a 3/8 to 1/2 inch socket to hold the crank, while I held one hand over there and put one hand on here with the torque wrench and got it to 85. That was a pain, but we got it, so it's okay. Next, we have to put the... Let me clean up my mess here. Next, we have to put in the clutch alignment tool. It comes with one. The flywheel comes with one. It's actually inside of it, underneath the packaging that's vacuum sealed. So if you're going to buy the kit, you don't need to buy this. I have 2 of them. And then this one I bought from Z1 when we bought the clutch. So I have 3 of them. Because this one came with the clutch also. And this is the Nismo pilot bushing, but I don't need it. Because this is the pilot bushing. And this barely slides in there. Whenever you pull it out, it goes whoop. Makes a really satisfying noise. You gotta have fun. Alright, let's get this clutch on. Alright, we got the clutch on. Now, you can put these on. I'm going to put some blue Loctite on them just a little bit. And then we're going to run them in with dowel pins are. And the torque for these are 35 foot-pounds. It's 25 to 35 foot-pounds. So I'm going to do 35. And then we're going to go here, here, here. We're just going to go to giant star pattern. So I'm going to do that now. One thing I had a question on is there's this much of a space. I'm assuming that's normal. But yeah, just in case. But I looked it up and you got to run them in because this is under pressure. It's a pressure plate, so you got to squeeze it. And then that release bearing, he's going to push against this and flatten that, causing this to pull back in and letting the flywheel disengage. So, yeah. Alright, got all the bolts torqued down. Had to do the finasco again, but they're all marked 35 foot-pounds. Now, we have to put on the adapter bracket. Today's already been a heck of a day, right? So, broken multiple bolts, blah, blah, blah. Got a buddy to weld one out. Broke another one when I got home after I put the head on. Wrong head bolts were ordered. Got the right ones. And then this, granted, nothing went wrong, but it's very close. So, on LOJ's picture, right, or on their main profile, these are 2 separate pieces. This top piece and then this bottom cover plate. Well, I knew that was 2 different pieces, but I guess on the updated form, it's 1 piece, which is nice. It's very nice. But if you already know where this is going, look at that and then look at this. But thankfully, if you go in at an angle, you can get behind it. Thankfully. Talk about a pucker moment. We're good. We're good. Let's keep going. Okay. Next, we got to put the bolts in all of these holes. And what we're going to do for that is use the 4 M10 by 1.5 30 millimeter hex, well, flange bolts. And then for these lower sections, right there, there, and there, we're going to use these low profile ones. If the 2 lower bolts don't get used at all with any other pan other than an OEM pan, I'm assuming is what he means by that. Because even with the LOJ, it would just go straight into the back of the oil pan. So, fun fact. let's mate it to the transmission. Let's go.